whatever.
He's usually first.
Have we seen Bucky?
Give a call right now.
Did he say he wasn't coming?
Oh, I have.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay, we'll hold on.
One block away.
All right.
A couple of minutes.
Just going to wait just 1 minute. We got Commissioner Oliver, who's 1 block away, so we're going to give a little time to get here, and it's great to see everybody. Yeah, you're fine. All right, it's 4:01, and it's time to call the January 27th Board of Commissioners work session meeting to order. Elizabeth, can you call the roll, please?
Mayor Harker,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cooper,
Here.
Commissioner Gilligan,
Here.
Commissioner LaPiccolo,
Here.
Commissioner Spiegler,
Here.
Commissioner Oliver.
Okay, great. We have agenda in front of us. Unless there's any questions, can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So move.
We've got a motion on the floor. Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Thank you. Now we're going to move on to items for review and discussion. The first one is the well-awaited 2025 parking season. And Charlie, who do we have to start that off?
Christy Wood, our finance director, is going to lead us in that discussion.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Board. I'm actually going to turn it over to Tina Reed with Pivot Parking, and her team are here to follow up on some of the comments and questions from the last meeting, and then also present some information that they'll need some decisions on from you. So, Tina?
I'm actually passing the torch today, and I'm going to let Brandon Lauterbach do the presentation.
I like it.
We figured with Tina's slip of the tongue last time and pronouncing Beaufort, we would keep her on the
Oh,
side.
no, Tina, yeah, well, sit down, Tina.
And you're still here.
All right, good afternoon. I'd like to thank the board for inviting us back. When we were here a few weeks ago, we went over some of these items, so some of it should be familiar. So we're just now following back to key in on some of those focus items that we'd like for further consideration and even official adoption if we so move tonight. Last time we went over some rate options for consideration. We mentioned some pay stations, the possibility of entertaining pay stations throughout the program. Based on the data that was asked for, mobile LPR, which is license plate recognition, maybe if that was an option, so we're going to talk on that. We're going to touch on some signage, some updated signage, which will be contingent on any changes to the program as far as rates or other verbiage that we agreed to change as well for the new season. We're going to touch on golf cart parking, a little program that we could explore there as well. And then lastly, touch on customer surveys based on the 24 season and the users that we have in the database there as well. So as we touched on last time, your current operation, when we went into the 24 season, there was actually an adjustment to the rates there at $150 an hour with a 4-hour limit except for Front Street. And then the premium lots were at $3 an hour in the east and west lots with no time restrictions, unlimited, but also restricted on the season pass holders that were not permitted to park in those lots as well. Hours of enforcement were 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week. Even though we didn't start until mid-May, the official season will now start in March of '25 and go through the end of October as well. The current season pass, or the season pass in '24 were $200 with a weekly pass sold at $25 a piece. So those were the current rates on the '24 parking season that we ended in October of '24. So the recommendations that we're presenting to you this afternoon for consideration would be keep everything the same. All the rates stay the same, but you could also look at extending the enforcement hours from 5 p.m. until 6 p.m. We found that, there was quite a bit of a rush on particular evenings during that 5 to 6 o'clock window. So if you could extend that 1 hour, then that could make an impact to the revenues as well. Option 2 would be to increase the non-premium rates to $2 an hour and then increase the premium rates to $4 an hour. You could keep the hours the same of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., but then also increase the season pass to $300 from $200, and then increase the weekly pass from $25 to $75. And then option 3 would be, again, to increase the rates from $2 for non-premium, $4 premium, and then add that extra hour of enforcement at the end of the day from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Again, modify the season pass amounts from 300, or from 200 to 300, and then the weekly from 25 to 75. Any questions there?
Would you like questions before you finish?
Sure.
Okay. Commissioner Cooper, you've got a question?
You have more to present?
Yes, sir. So I can go through and we can save the questions for the end if you'd prefer that.
I would like, I prefer
Okay.
to say mine to the end.
Okay.
Okay.
Is anybody else okay with that? Okay, proceed.
When we were here a few weeks ago, we had also mentioned a consideration for the change in the rate to the citations. We went back and started putting together the details for this presentation. We realized that your rate for citations is already $50. So that's not included on this.
Know that. Got one.
So these are the only rates that we have included for consideration. When we were here a few weeks ago, just talking about customer interaction and kind of some of the feedback that some of our merchants and even some of you folks that I had received directly about the mobile payment platform and the ease of that and the use of that, and would it make sense to maybe looking at putting in a couple of pay stations to offer that credit card and direct payment option somewhere throughout the program instead of just relying on the mobile platform, which is what we did in 2024. This is a brand new pay station option that's out there right now. Does offer a credit card, it offers a tap to pay option, does not offer a cash option, so it would still be credit card only. But it would also, they would still be required to register a license plate even in the pay station, which would then integrate with our enforcement system, so we would be able to still enforce payments through the pay station as well. These run about $4,500 a unit, which does not include installation or shipping, which would be an additional $1,200 on top of that. So roughly, not quite $6,000 per unit consideration there. Our thought, and it would also be a $25 monthly software fee for the provider of the system to manage the software side and the back end going forward as well. They're solar powered, so there would be no power requirement, which is nice. Hopefully we don't have too many rainy days, but they would be reliant on solar power. And where we would explore installing these pay stations would be along Front Street, one on either side, one on the west end, one on the east end. We want to make sure that they're clearly marked with new signage, so there's also no confusion as to which zone that they're using the pay station to park in. We want to make sure there's no erroneous citations issued if they think that they're parking in a unlimited zone when really they might be in a 4-hour zone or vice versa. So we would make sure that we add new signage to clearly mark that as well. Based on some of the information that we were asked in our previous presentation, mainly related to occupancy counts, which the enforcement system that we're currently using does not technically provide. When you get into occupancy counts and turnover ratios and that type of data, that raw data as it relates to occupancy. And so we had suggested looking into maybe an LPR, license plate recognition unit, which does and can start to provide that data that we could start collecting for more granular occupancy information, so that we can really get a handle on the turnover for the spaces, who's using the spaces for how long and how often. The unit would be attached to either a golf cart, a low-speed vehicle, or a smaller commercial vehicle, which is not included in these numbers, so that would still be required to mount the cameras to, in order to have our ambassador then use that vehicle for the enforcement through the camera system, while also collecting that information. Roughly right now, that unit would cost around $65,000 to $70,000, and again, does not include the vehicle that we would need to attach the cameras to. We had also touched on updated signage. So again, depending on some of the changes to the rates, pay stations being installed, we would need to revamp the verbiage on the signage if that's the case. But we've already started working with the vendor to kind of get them geared up if we needed to redo the signage, whether it's refacing with the existing vinyl or brand new signage. So we're getting some pricing and have received some pricing on that as well. So it's really just going to depend on the outcome of what gets approved as far as any rate changes and things like that based on this presentation. We would go with a larger QR code based on the feedback we received from you guys last time. The convenience fees are already notated on there. So if we can figure out a way to maybe just make it a little more prevalent, we'll look at that as well. There are currently 43 signs that we use during the 24 season. So again, if we're able to reface those with new vinyl overlays, the cost for those are looking about $75 a sign. We identified that, again, if we made no changes going into the 25 season, we feel that we at least need 10 more signs, regardless, just for visibility, just based on the feedback that we receive from customers and just our observations throughout the season as well. So for a new sign, they're currently averaging about $300 a sign for the new ones. And again, if we end up going the route of pay stations, then we'll need a few signs just to indicate that and emphasize where customers go to utilize the pay stations as well. And then while also being careful to not get too wordy on the sign, because you start putting too much information on there, then it's kind of the forest of the trees, right? They end up not being able to read any of it because there's so much information on there. So we would want to make sure that we're being concise with the message that we're trying to deliver on all the signage, again, to capture the important areas as far as processing fees, times, the rates, obviously. So we would use this as an opportunity to maybe revamp and reword the signage as a whole as well. And then, with the new signage, and whether we end up with pay stations or license plates, whatever changes end up being incorporated with the 25 season, we will also work with Rachel and the social media department to make sure that the videos are provided for the website to assist the town and the customers who are visiting the town as well. We touched on golf cart parking in the last presentation, and we went back through, and again, without that raw data that a license plate recognition system would give us, just based on what limited information we were able to pull from the enforcement system, in addition to just our own observations throughout the season. During peak times, we were noticing anywhere from 6, maybe up to 10 golf carts parking in within the program peak time. We saw an uptick once you started getting towards that 5, 6 o'clock time period with a dinner crowd and a happy hour crowd, is where we saw an increase in the golf carts. But with the 6 dedicated spaces that we currently have, throughout Front Street and around on Turner Street, they seem to be sufficient for what we observed in the 24 season. But we could also explore maybe taking a couple of regular spaces, designating those for not full-time golf cart parking, but if we designate them to where if a golf cart does park there, which they have the right to do currently, because they have to abide by the same vehicular laws and rules as a regular vehicle, we could denote some of those spaces. And if you are going to park a golf cart in a regular vehicle space, let's try to park 2 of them. And so we could try to get creative there with some simple paint and dotted line and graphics on the ground. That's something we can explore and just identify which spaces we feel would make most sense there. And then that would create the Share the Space program, which again, we could start advertising through the signage, through the website, and the public outreach that we would want to do with any changes going into the 25 season anyhow. And then we also touched on surveys to the customers that we had parked with us during the 24 season. We checked with our payment vendor, and they are able to send out surveys on our behalf. There's limited as far as the type of questions that they can ask, but they have been willing to work with us if we choose to go that route at a cost of about 5 cents per survey. So we are prepared to send those out with approval, and doesn't take that long to get those out. And that is it.
We'll see if any of the commissioners have questions, which I think they do for you. And we'll start with Commissioner Cooper.
Thanks for the presentation. Excellent. I enjoyed it. Personally, I like staying with the option that we have now. And also, rather than beginning in March, we start in May. I'm not sure how that, the figures will come out on that. Because I believe still, I'm downtown pretty much every other day, most mornings, and I do drive down there through some evenings. And I do find that the parking, there's still a lot of available parking at this time of the year. Because because it's our off season. And our locals some are coming down to eat dinner or supper, whichever you may prefer. And so I think May will be a comfortable time, May 1st, versus beginning in August, in March. Because right now, it's only 4 months, be like 4 months where parking was free. And I think we owe it to our citizens to give them a little bit more time than just 4 months. Okay. If I recall, the season pass that you here a few weeks ago, you only sold one.
That was the Waterfront Business District Pass of $800, to where you can park anywhere, unlimited. We sold one of those at $800 for the season.
And how many other premium did you sell?
The season passes, forgive me, I had those numbers. We sold 153 of the $200 season passes. We sold 93 of the $25 weekly passes.
Okay. And the citation fee, would like for it to remain as it is as well, at $50.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure about the LPR. Now, 18 registered golf carts was that to you guys, only 18?
In our enforcement system, yes, sir. So those that signed up for a season pass, if they had a golf cart, we were capturing those license plates since they are required to have town plates as well. And so within the system that were registered directly with us, there were 18 registered.
Okay. Let me go back to the LPR system. If you put it on a golf cart, that means your ambassador or your person, your enforcement person, he's riding, or he or she is riding around, and the camera scans quickly each license plate to let them know whether or not they're registered to park in Beaufort, correct?
Correct, yes, sir. Whereas now they're on foot and they're having to manually stop and scan each plate with the handheld, basically a cell phone that we're using for the current enforcement.
Yes, sir.
Because this would be on a mobile device and a mobile vehicle, as you're driving down, it's constantly scanning, and not just the license plate, but the systems now will also recognize vehicle types, vehicle color, not just the actual license plate, but it gives us a bigger picture and context for each vehicle as well.
I do agree that we do need more signs. There's very few. I mean, you could go a block or so and not even see a sign. So I do agree we do need more signage. Your manager, the one that's here year round,
Yes, sir.
did he go out and speak to the local businesses and even speak to, say, the local Beaufort people about
And Michael's
about
here with us
parking?
this evening. Yeah, he got to know, if not all the merchants, a lot of them very well over this 24 season, even though it was abbreviated
So
season.
can he speak to, what he, in terms of the information they provided him, especially on the business end, the business people?
Right now?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
Can you come up to the mic, please? We have a commissioner has a difficult time of hearing.
Yes, I do.
Well, we're also live streaming, that's another reason, not just you.
I'll say that the number one piece of feedback I received was a need for more signage, so that was my biggest priority, is informing the public and, being out on the streets during lunchtime to make sure anyone needed help, I was out there to help them as well as my enforcement.
Were they aware, did you make them aware that the month may change in terms of the starting time, it being March versus May?
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
The start time to initiate this new, this year's parking is being asked for March. Did you speak to them in terms of, or did they have something to say in terms of what the start time would be good for them?
I have not received feedback on that yet.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Oliver.
In case you can't hear me, I want to be sure that you can hear me all right. Is the intent of this whether to ask questions or intent what our opinion is?
I believe it's going to be a little bit of both. He's presented some options here to you, and you've got questions about those, and if you have any suggestions, that would be the direction the staff would like to know about as well.
That's what I figured.
Okay.
I find it kind of an interesting time. God bless him, we have an interim manager here, and we're working on that. We have a wounded mayor. We have a National Park Service in negotiation beyond 25. We have a material change coming in Gallant's Channel in 26 being available for possible use. I think there's a lot of pushback. I agree with Melvin. There's a lot of pushback, and I support that for moving the start dates from March instead of around Memorial Day. And I also sense there's a lot of sensitivity as to the rate. So I think this is a time when, as a commissioners, we need to be very conservative in what we do and very limited in the changes we make, because frankly, we're in a period of a number of moderate transitions. So I think the closer we can stay to the past history, the better off we are. Like Commissioner Cooper mentioned, I'm in favor of increasing and improving signage because there's a lot of observations of people fighting the system and not understanding it. Personally, I think we should severely limit the number of passes that we sell, and that those passes should only be sold to people who have a confirmed residency within the specific zone. In other words, I don't think it should be sold to those who just happen to have the money capable of not paying the daily fee. The double golf cart parking to me is an obvious yes. The surveys, I think, what I understand it would be 5 cents per survey we got. I think that's a good investment. And so I'm looking at it on a very limited basis, is my comment for today.
Okay.
I think any thought of a 60,000 for LPR is nuts this year.
Okay. All right, let's go to Commissioner Spiegler.
Thank y'all for being here and presenting. We know y'all have worked really hard on this the past year, so we want to say thank you and we appreciate your being here. We know that this was a big burden on our staff when our staff used to run our parking, so we very much appreciate having y'all here. That being said, I do agree with what my commissioner said before me. I think just hearing the feedback from the community, there is a lot of concern that the parking is starting earlier this year on March 1st. And I think that was something that we talked about last year. So it's not like totally a surprise that you're springing on us, but I think just the awareness now by our community, like that it's coming. We have gotten a lot of pushback from the community about that. We've never started paid parking, I don't think, that early in the past 8 years that we've done it. And it just seems that there's not a consensus in town for that. Not to say maybe in the future it isn't something we could consider, but like Commissioner Oliver said, we've got a lot of changes right now. So I would be in favor of waiting and starting the paid parking until May 1st if that's what we all decided as a group. I also would not be in favor of any large changes in the rates at this time. It's been less than a year, so I think we need to keep things pretty stable right now. I agree. I think surveys are a great idea, more signs, anything to make it easier, user-friendly, making sure we're getting the feedback and can use that to make the system better going forward. That's pretty much all I've got. Thank you. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. It's
Yeah.
our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Commissioner Gilligan.
Appreciate you providing these recommendations so clearly.
Our pleasure.
I think the purpose of our parking program is to move cars around. We want to increase turnover, and we're not focused on the financial benefit per se, although that is a benefit. So I agree with my fellow commissioners in keeping things generally the way they are with the pricing and the May start date and the improvement in signage. If there's a way we can reuse some of those signs, if we needed to produce like bigger QR code stickers to stick on the sign, if that would help, and adding some additional signs I think would be great. Unsure about the pay stations because they're about $5,700 per station, and if we only had 2, would that provide the benefit? I mean, I think it would help increase accessibility to parking, but I'm just unsure if 2 would do it, and they're pretty expensive, so I'd like to have further discussion about that. The citation rate is fine with me. I would like to keep it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And I'm wondering can we keep it 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. with increased enforcement till 6 p.m., but not pay till 6 p.m.? You know what I mean?
I do, and that gets a little tricky and a little
Okay.
gray, right?
Okay,
Because you
gotcha.
have somebody, if they're only allowed to pay up until 5, but we're enforcing until 6,
Yeah.
then now you're back to creating confusion, maybe,
Okay,
on the
gotcha.
side.
I just
Yeah,
wanted to
but
know if that was even an
certainly something that
option.
we will consider and maybe come back with
Okay.
what our thoughts are on that.
I think that is it for now. Oh, the survey. Yeah, I think the survey is a fantastic idea. I mean, it doesn't cost that much, and if we get even if we got a couple thousand, that would be great. Instead of getting all of our feedback via email or on the street, I think a combination of ways to get feedback is a good thing. So I think that's a powerful tool. That's it for now.
Golf cart?
No on the golf cart.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner LoPiccolo.
Thank you for coming. Appreciate your time here. And I have a few questions regarding, one, the pay station. So the pay station fee that you quoted, what would be the warranty on that, the service fees? Like, how long would that hold up for? What would the town's total cost be, say, over a 5-year period for that?
They generally come with a 12-month labor and hardware warranty. I don't know that there would have been an extended warranty included in this pricing. And then the 25 per month software fee would be an ongoing fee to the town for the life of the unit.
So it's just a 12-year, if the thing falls apart, is there, like, you guys able to service the units? Is that unit have to be shipped off, or?
Yeah. So a lot of the stations now are plug and play. There are very few moving parts. So a lot of them can be maintained by our team locally with some extra parts maybe included in a kit up front with the machine.
And are there other vendors for that, or is there only just one vendor for $4,500 for a unit? Seems
I'll
for
be
what
honest,
you
this
get for
is
there. I mean, it's
actually one of
basically
the
a cell
cheaper
phone.
units that we've seen. I mean, there are several vendors out there
Right.
that manufacture pay stations. And this is actually one of the cheaper units that we've seen because
But there are other units that might work with your group?
for sure.
Okay.
There are other options that we can go back and explore.
And I would be interested in pay station, and I don't know if that would be helpful based on what you all have experienced with the town and with residents who use this. If having that would have been very helpful. I know you did have to do hands-on working with residents and working with people parking for that. So I don't know if that would help to alleviate some of that. But I think anything that helps visitors to the community so that they don't feel confused would definitely be helpful. I think signage, would be helpful as well, increased signage. I am for additional staggered spaces in golf carts, and I'd like to see even a couple other spaces added to see if that would help to alleviate parking downtown as well. If you can get 2 golf carts in a single vehicle parking space, I think that would be great. The survey, I think surveys would be helpful. Having surveys even through my own business and then surveys being free because it's just a text message or email, it's not I'm just kind of a little flabbergasted that there's a fee associated with something as simple as that. But 5 cents is just 5 cents, but it definitely can add up over time. So I'd be curious on how many surveys that would probably end up being. If I remember right, as a board, we did vote on March to October. That was the board's decision. So I'd be willing to discuss that and see if that would be something we want to change. But I'm also very data-driven. I know we have data for October and we have data for the months before. We didn't have any data for March or April because we did start late.
Or half of May.
Or half of, May. So I'm kind of curious, as we talked about, this to me also, as Paula said, is about moving people around. And when the town's, not that busy and there's no one really here downtown right now, it's not that big a deal. We don't need this. But I don't know what the numbers are for March or April. Obviously, March probably not as much, but I wonder what April would be like, and if that would be something that we did need. And we wouldn't know if we didn't institute that to get that data to understand, well, no, there are quite a bit of people downtown who are utilizing the spaces. So I'd be willing to discuss that and open to changing that. But I'd also want to hear more from the business owners too. So it's not something I think I'd want to decide on today. I'd really want to discuss that more with them and have kind of get a feel for where they're at. And I do agree with the pass limit. I think we should look into that as well. And that's all. Thank you.
Okay.
Madam address something that Commissioner Piccolo spoke on. When we decided to allow you guys to manage our parking, I believe we said March, but I think we also said it was something that we would look at, you know, after the first year or this first session that we just went through with you guys. I don't think we actually put it in concrete, but I do believe we said we may take a look at it. I don't think we actually said that we would start in March of next year. I could be wrong.
It's on the sign now.
It's on the sign now?
Yes, sir. Well, it was in '24, as if, had we started in '24, it would have been March 1, based on our understanding of what was approved at that time.
Well, if we change our mind, it's just going and taking a little label thing, the same process now that you're talking about overlaying over the signs we have now. So we're in no real big trouble. All we need to do is overlay March to May, correct?
Unfortunately, I was not part of the original discussions. So we would have to defer back to the board.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Oh, yes, and John, you said something about was it about the machine?
Yeah, I asked about, is there a warranty on the machine? Does the town have to pay for
I know what that
service
was.
fees
Okay.
and so forth?
So presently, in your estimate, how many of those stations would we need?
I would say at most 2, and again, to start out. Because we went away from, we started the season in 2024, we moved away from any hardware, any pay stations, and went completely mobile. Based on some feedback and observations that we had during the 24 season, the customer and the demographic that we have that were trying to use the mobile-only platform, we did encounter some customers that had a difficult time, frankly. So I think at least 1, maybe 2 pay stations would help with the technology. Folks that are having a difficult time with the technology, this should be a little simpler, ideally, right?
And that's
But we also heard, just as much feedback saying, I'm so glad y'all got rid of those pay stations because they never worked, and so we're just trying to make sure that we are continuing to provide recommendations and based on our observation and our experience within the town and the customer feedback that we're receiving as well. So no harm in maybe trying it, 1, maybe 2 more to see if it works. And there would be, we would make sure there would be no long-term commitment as far as locked into any type of 10-year service fee to the vendor. It would obviously be the upfront capital outlay, and then it's yours at that point.
Okay. All right, and I'm looking at expanding on my computer here and looking at the pay to park, and it is March 1st through October the 31st. But once again, I mean, if we can just do a little overlay, and
The RC and H can go and put a Y there.
so that's what I'm looking at.
Okay.
I'm looking at a May date versus a March, and maybe when we thought about it again. Once again, I never like to predict things that far ahead. So my thought was that we would come back and address this because we wouldn't have known what the outcome was going to be behind this, and obviously some of the business people is a little concerned about this early start. And I'm concerned about it as well because we're not giving our local residents that much free time to come down, park, and shop if we're going to kick it off in March. Okay. That's all. Thank you, ma'am.
And I think Commissioner Cooper and many of the commissioners are spot on. It's probably time to reevaluate what we kind of spoke about last year. Once again, when we came into parking, we came into it behind the eight ball a little bit. And so we were kind of looking at what would this look like, and we had a small snapshot of what that looks like. And starting in March, I think, because I don't have a vote, but I'm just going to make my opinion note, that we're going to probably start to look at the picture in a bigger way. We were kind of rushed to get things started, and we forgot about one of our important groups, which is the Gardens Club, and how they were going to fit into this. And starting it in March is going to put them going through a lot more rigor than we would like for them to go through. And I think they're, willing to work with the season timeframe to get down there to water the plants and to take care of what they need to do. But to extend it a couple of months, it's going to put a lot of pressure on them. So I didn't want to make that misstep this year by not including that group in this conversation, because they do a great value for our town. So I think what we're going to be doing today is, I don't know if we're going to make a whole lot of decisions for you, Brandon, today, but we're going to go through some points and see if we can't get some consensus as to how we're going to start this parking season. And we're not the only municipality talking about this very topic. So you can be free to field any questions. I'm just going to start a conversation with the commissioners, and we're going to see if we can have a consensus, starting out with the date. We've got 3 options up here. They're all starting with March the 1st, and it sounds like we need to have a discussion as to whether we're going to move that time frame. We can fix signage, that's the least of our worries, as to whether you want to do May. And if you're bouncing around May the 1st, that falls on a Thursday, that falls in the middle of the week. So typically in the past, we've started it a few weeks before Memorial Day. You could discuss that if you wish amongst yourselves. Let's have a conversation about when do you think we should start the parking.
When is Easter this year? April 20th.
So the question, what was Easter this year? And it's April the 20th.
Well, I can start. I agree with Commissioner Cooper. I don't think that, regardless of what we kind of decided in haste last year, I think that we need to be respectful of our community members, our garden club. That was a very good point, Mayor Harker. I would, any date in May would be fine for me to start, but at this point, I would not feel comfortable earlier than that. I think for parking season 2026, I think we could have discussions this year. I think we have parking on our agenda at our retreat, which is next week, and I would welcome community members to come speak then or give us feedback that we can discuss at our retreat. But I just feel like it's too soon to make that decision this year, but I would be willing to, if we talked about it this year, gave the community members enough time, business owners especially, to give us feedback this year, we could make a better decision for 2026. But I would recommend any date in May, depending on what the commissioners think would be the best day in May.
Okay. Commissioner Oliver, any clue about May? Any recommendations?
If we do May 1st, it would be pretty easy for the signs, just you'd have to replace March with May, right?
And there's that.
I would be open to discussion anywhere from Easter or Memorial Day, but no earlier, personally.
So with Easter being in April,
April 20th is when Easter is. And frankly, I don't have enough information or knowledge to know the issue, if it's critical at Easter, but I think it's I'm very much in favor of like a week before Memorial Day. It's kind of a natural thing for me. And I don't know if turnover's a problem in the last 10 days of April. So I'm more, my heart is more a week or so before Memorial Day, personally. And I'm not bent over on it.
now just based on, because this decision shouldn't really be made in a vacuum per se, but we had the Business Association at one point in time would give us feedback. And one of the last feedbacks we heard from the businesses was if we're going to start it around Memorial Day, to do maybe a week or two beforehand. And that's kind of why we started the last time. That was the last feedback we received from them. So I don't know what that feedback would look like today, but that's just going on historical information for the board. So we have anywhere between April the 20th, May the 1st. Commissioner Cooper?
Yeah, looking at my calendar, I would see in terms of the beginning of the week, May 5th, at least, it's 2 weeks out for Memorial Day, about a good 2 weeks. So May 5th is on a Monday.
Memorial Day, 31st.
Right.
Memorial Day is the 26th,
Yep, 26.
and that's a Monday.
That's 3 weeks.
That's 3
ahead.
weeks. You want to do the 2 weeks before, that's the 12th
No,
or the 5th?
5th.
Okay. All righty. Commissioner Gilligan?
May 5th or 12th seem reasonable.
Okay. Commissioner Lopiccolo?
Yeah, I'd agree with Commissioner Gillikin, May 5th to 12th, or even the 1st. Just make it simple.
All righty. Now we're down to May 5th or 12th. Which one is just a consensus for May 5th?
I'm fine either way.
Come on, give us something here.
Somebody that cares.
Either way is not it. We don't have either. There's not a May either.
My pain meds only last but so long. So we need to make a decision. I'm only kidding, I'm not on anything.
Right.
Straight to the
Then I propose May the 19th, which is 1 week before Memorial Day. The second time I've said
Don't
it.
do another date it in now.
It is not, it was the 12th. 5th, 5th,
5th,
5th,
5th.
5th.
The 5th.
All right, so May 5th is when we're thinking about starting this parking season. All righty. So let's go into something simple. Looks like signage, it was consensus to have more signage. Okay, consensus for more signage. You spoke about the QR code, and one of the things that was interesting about the QR code was the height for us, people that are challenged, and we couldn't quite get, Zoom is an option, but we kind of want it a little bit at eye level. So I don't know if we could bring it down to a little bit, but,
We'll look at that once we look at what the revamped signage looks like. The
Okay.
reason why we tend to install it at a higher than normal is to prevent fraud with the QR code.
okay, only tall people do that.
If we're gonna but if we enlarge it on the sign, hopefully that'll help with the sign being
Okay.
placed where it was, but,
All righty. So we're okay with QR code. Looks like the stacking of the golf carts and creating double spaces seems to be a consensus of the board.
Yes.
We agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. The hours of 8 to 5 is still the same?
Yes.
Okay. So hours 8 to 5. Survey, I guess Commissioner Piccolo wanted to have a little more conversation about the survey. Now, who is the survey going out to? Just the user, or is the survey going out to the business owners as well?
it would be going to the customers who paid through the payment portal for the '24 season.
Okay. And do we have any idea, because once again, this is data-driven, and we're going to be able to get some data, whether you guys, I guess, are doing it, are you going to be visiting the businesses to get feedback so that when we're back here this year, we can get some feedback on how things are working on their end?
For sure.
Okay.
And we can put together a survey on our own, specifically for the business owners. We can look at doing that directly.
All right, all right. The pay stations sounds like, excuse me, we're going back to the survey. You had a
Just
question on
quick,
that.
is the fee for the survey, is that for everyone that pays or everyone that responds to it? Or how does that work?
All right,
All right, Tina.
turn it over to Tina.
So
Where are we
this-
at, Tina?
The survey, actually, I just need to correct, the survey will not go to past 24 people. It would be initiated for 2025 for anyone that uses the text to do that. The way the surveys are is that you turn it on, it goes to everyone that makes a transaction, and then, so that fee is then charged to everyone for every survey that goes out.
And then the data, is it just like a star? Is that you get 1 star to 5 stars, or is there
There's a
specific,
little
like, how-
customization you have to remember, because you're getting a little text that says, please take this survey.
Right.
And so basically, it's a more of a customer experience, rate your experience on a scale of 1 to 5. There can sometimes be an open-ended question that you can get responses back. But again, it being a text message and the way that you manipulate it, you have to keep it very condensed. So we do get those scorings if you do like a 1 to 5 on how was you can ask 1 or 2, maybe 3 questions, and that's about the max. Because otherwise you just go 5 questions, I don't want to do this. So you try to keep it as minimal as possible to get 3 key questions, and then they can do a scoring of 1 to 5. And sometimes you can leave a little open response for a quick message. And then we receive those back on the platform that we have, and then we can share that through a dashboard with you.
Who pays the 5 cents?
It would be an expense of the operating system, not the customer. The customer would not
So
get
it's the
charged the
town.
5 cents. It would be an expense for the
It's
town.
gonna be,
Yeah, so keep in mind, you had 65,000 transactions.
Yeah. My concern is
So you would
the
send out
usefulness
that many
of
responses,
of
that
that
many
information.
surveys?
Right, and then
At
what do we
that
do with that
point,
information?
you can't pick and choose who gets the survey. If you turn it on, it goes to all.
So it's around $3,200 if we had the same amount of people as last year.
Well, I bet you only,
Thank you.
a third would be a high response rate
Sorry, that's what it would cost us to send it out to everybody.
for the 65,000.
So-
Correct.
6,500.
Yeah, but I bet we would only get a response rate of no more than 30%.
I bet they'll all be complaining.
It
And then-
depends,
and
it
then the
depends on the
question
question that you ask.
When you-
It
my
does
question
depend
too is
on
when
that.
you-
I
when you
think
order a
the
test
percentage
and
of
you get the
returns
information,
that
what
we
do
have
you do
seen
with it?
have been somewhere between the 35 and 45%. It's been kind of that range of responses that you get back.
So it's actually, I mean, let's say it's between $3,000 and $5,000, right? Is it worth us getting these survey responses for that? I mean, it's not
Depends on the question you ask.
very high amount of money, but it's not
Yeah.
zero.
And like I
it
said,
depends
it
on the
really
question.
depends on what you do with the data that, once you get it. Like,
And the
we got a
question.
4-star or we got a 3-star, what will that then do
Yeah, what
with
would-
us? What do we do with that information? When we order that test, what are we gonna do with that?
It's very indicative of what questions you ask.
Yeah.
Of what goals you're trying to get from the information and what questions that you ask.
I think we need to think about the question before we make a decision.
True story.
Can I ask, Charlie, I hate to have you jump in if you're not prepared, but do you think it would be useful to the town staff or?
Definitely, yeah, would be useful information, always,
Again, it depends on what you ask.
yeah. I mean, staff would like to work with the board on, and with Pivot on coming up with that questionnaire. It's the hardest thing for you folks sitting at this dais or us sitting in town hall is trying to conduct business in an informational vacuum. So this is another resource for you, so wholeheartedly support it.
But I also think, coming back to what you talked about, we need very good, specific data from our merchants in the affected area.
Yeah. So can we stick a pin in the survey? Is that something that we don't have to activate like right now? We can come back with you and talk about it a little bit
Absolutely.
further?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right, that's not a deal breaker. So we're going to come back to that. The next thing that we talked about was okay, so the golf cart for the reading. Okay. Tell me how you feel.
No,
All right, that's a no.
What would the fee on that?
60 to 70,000? That's just for the equipment minus the golf cart,
Correct.
correct? Okay,
That's a no to me.
all right.
And I know it gets hot during the summer, and the guys, I seen them walking around during the summer, sitting out on Turner Street, but that's 65,000 to 70,000. That's quite a bit of change.
And then $25 for your software fee
That was for the pay station.
for the pay,
Pay
that's the pay
station. For the pay
station,
station.
okay.
So there would also be an annual licensing fee after the first year ongoing for the license plate recognition unit as well.
So there's a fee, so, okay. All right, so it's adding up.
Speaking of that, your ambassador order, going around and reading all of that.
Yes, sir.
I do see him circling around. I have to give him that. I do see him. I give him that. Is there a break time in there for them? I'm sure there is,
There is,
regulation-wise.
there
yes.
is.
Let's get,
They-
by
yeah, they-
July,
they-
it's hot out there.
Yeah, no, we provide them plenty of water and nutrients throughout the day. And in addition to their lunch break, I mean, they get 15-minute breaks throughout the day as well. So we definitely make sure to bring them in out of the heat when we can.
Okay. All righty, so we'll put a pin in on, that's a no for the reader, by the way. So the last one thing I had on my list is pass and limiting those passes. We wanted to have a discussion about that. Some feel the passes should remain the same, and some feel like there might be a limit to those passes. And now this is not including those who reside down there, who require a pass for their residence, so that's off the table. So you,
I was the one that brought it up. I think a pass, and I'm not talking about the price of the pass, but I think the passes should only be offered to people who live physically in the parking zone.
What do you mean, live in the parking
Otherwise, in
zone?
my opinion, you're just doing a discount to your parking system, and I don't think that that's the way it's being done. Among other things, it's not democratic. I mean, it makes it harder on people that don't have the money to do it, and they're the ones that have the greatest needs. So I personally think that the purpose of the pass should be for somebody who lives there and should have a pass. That's just my
When you,
personal opinion.
I don't think I understand when they live there, so you mean like physically lives downtown?
Yes.
Just the one, so just like on the waterfront?
Who physically live within the area in which they want to get a pass.
so if
Several
I
di-
live
there's
5
several
blocks
dis-
away,
There's several districts. There's a central one, which we're doing, which you've described in here. There's some that live east of there. There's some that live west of there. If they live in those districts, they are eligible to get a pass. Otherwise, they're just like everybody else.
so if someone lived 10 blocks away or by the Food Lion but wanted to be able to come downtown, I have my mother with me who can't walk, you're saying I would be limited to buying a pass because,
No, I'd say you couldn't get one. You'd pay like everybody else does. Everybody's on a level playing field. The only pass people can buy a pass are people who live there, is my proposal.
I have a question. Right now, can anybody buy a pass, or do you have to be a resident of Beaufort?
And anyone can currently anyone can purchase a season pass. To
I
get the
would-
waterfront
okay.
business district pass at the 800,
You have to
you
live
do have to physically live at the waterfront.
Okay, I
Can you
would,
say that again louder, please?
For the waterfront business district season pass, which is $800, you do have to reside on the waterfront in order to be able to qualify for that pass, correct? Yes,
So you
But-
already have it.
we do,
Yes.
we do, and we sold one.
Okay, and that's for what what is the definition of the district?
It's a physical address along Front Street,
Where along Front Street?
on the east end, in between the 100 and 400 block, I believe. I'll have to confirm that and get back to you.
Doesn't anybody know? Can you speak up? I'm hard of hearing.
It's the waterfront side from basically, the docks, the marina there, all the way down to just past Topsail Park, the waterfront side.
So from Turner to Queen?
from Pollock
For-
to
yeah.
Orange, maybe,
Yeah,
right,
yeah, Queen, all the way down to the docks.
Orange, maybe?
So from Turner to Queen, you cannot buy a pass unless you live there. Is that what you're saying?
And beyond Turner, actually, yeah.
Well, beyond it, how far?
I believe Moore Street is for the waterfront.
Okay, so from Queen westward,
Yes, yes,
then we already have what I'm requesting.
yes.
You have to
But
live
there's
there.
also passes that can be purchased themselves separately from that. So all of those residents that live on the waterfront can get a pass, and we've already built that into it. They have to live within that district.
And they pay for that pass.
Yes, if they want.
Like 8 to 10 residents that qualify.
Okay.
I think though, so we also sell passes, for instance, I think some of the local businesses buy passes, right, and use it for their, I don't know how many, use it for some of their employees.
And then there's weekly
193 is what it
passes.
said.
Yeah, I was gonna address that, because that's a couple of businesses that I went into, when we began to, with Pivot this year here was, their thing was that the buying the passes, it was, how do they pass it to the next individual, that's gonna be working?
Well, and so the other change that we implemented with the passes with the 24 season was it was no longer a physical pass. The pass was the license plate for each vehicle.
So it's not
I think they
transferable.
still,
So there was no transferring, to your point, right? There was no ability to transfer a pass between vehicles. at
So
that
the
point.
business who wanted to maintain this pass for their employees would give you the license plate numbers of all the employees that would be utilizing that. So
Correct.
whenever they came and went, you would pick that up.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I would hesitate to limit that for the businesses and the employees. That would be my main concern there. And some people who have trouble with the access or the machines or the text, and they can afford the $200 and they can just drive downtown and have their tag be the pass. I would hate for those people with those access challenges to not have that option.
Right.
So I'm not sure what limit we would.
Those
we would put on
passes, though, they're only valid in certain parking areas, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So to simplify it, right, they're not valid in the premium, the east or the west lots. And if they're in a 4-hour zone, they also still have to abide by the 4-hour time limit.
Okay.
and what I was saying, and I didn't make it really clearly, but, if I came into work and you have my plate, but my vehicle, I'm coming in with another vehicle. So how is that I'm gonna get cited?
If the license plate is not registered in the system, either the payment or the enforcement system, that vehicle would be eligible for citation at that point.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we do have where that sometimes the employees not driving the same vehicle every day due to breakdown or the husband take the car and the wife they have to swap out.
And we have, I mean, if they've contacted Michael directly, and if we're aware of that scenario, we have the ability to go in and update the license plate in real time within the system. So there is that ability in those certain examples.
So we need to provide a number to the businesses that where they can call Mike and say, hey, my employee, regular tag number is such and such, but this one is today.
For sure.
Okay.
But we just have to make sure, and that's where it becomes, a little burden on Michael in keeping up with that. Because then now if both license plates end up getting read on that same day, then that's where the abuse starts. If they're telling us they're swapping a plate, but yet we find both of them parked at the same time. So that's
Yeah,
part
that
of the
comes-
daily management on
Yeah,
Michael's
comes-
end
yeah.
as well.
Yeah, and that may be a little fraud in that end where, come on, park down here today, honey, and,
Well, you've got a way of fixing that, so lesson learned if that does happen. How about that? So it looks like the passes should remain the same. There's no major change in the passes, considering everything is covered? Okay. All right, and the season pass prices of $200 each and a weekly pass of $25. Is there a consensus to keep that the same?
Stay the same.
Say the same.
Stay the same, okay? Now, Brandon, did I cover everything that you think you might be looking for as an answer, other than the fact that
Machines, the card readers.
the card readers? The pay stations, you mean?
Pay stations?
Yeah.
yeah. I
Are
thought
we gonna do the pay
Yeah, we
stations?
nicked that.
Yeah,
Did we?
No, I think we blended it with the golf cart discussion and maybe.
Okay, well, let's bring that up to be clear about that. So the pay stations.
That's the 4,500 plus 1,500 for software.
Well, it's 45 for the hardware, an additional 1,200 for the installation and the shipping. And by the way, there's about currently a 4 to 6 week lead time for the units once it's ordered, which generally requires a 50% deposit to place the order.
Do we have any money from the prior parking season to help afford this equipment? Oh, it's a serious question.
Yeah, I mean, we finished the season with a surplus, yeah,
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
It would be nice to have, I know our parking manager might like to see that happen too, to help with some of the confusion. And we have none of the old stations left where we can, as a surplus, maybe exchange or sell or to, I'm just trying to,
Sure, yeah, no, that's a good question. And yeah, the age of those machines,
oh, okay.
Tina Reed, everyone.
All right.
Tina,
This is the newest version. It goes on a post. Some of the other ones are long standalone like you used to have. They've configured this one to where it deals with the salt air a little bit better, so it doesn't corrode as much as some of the other ones. There is an option if you're looking for a cheaper option. It's not what I would consider the best, but we have several municipalities that we currently manage that have chosen to remove their pay stations, and they don't want pay stations anymore. So there are some used models that could be at an offering for a discounted price, but they have 3, 4, 5 years of use on them. So that is an option that we could bring to you for you to consider. They are what we call Parkion pay stations, and they've been in a salt air environment already. So there is that option. But this particular option, again, is color screen, so it's a little bit easier to see. It is touch screen, so you're not having to just touch with a button, any of that nature. It does provide a receipt. The 4 to 6 week lead time is allowing then for them to configure all the rates, everything that needs to be done, and then getting it here and getting it installed. So there are other options out there. And again, we don't advise cash acceptance because that just becomes another problem of people putting in wet bills and that kind of thing. If you wanted cash, we could do that. You add $2,000 to $3,000 more to a pay station that accepts cash. So there are other options out there. We just chose to bring you what we felt like was the most up-to-date, the most economical, and it is small in its version.
You service other municipalities in the county. Do the other municipalities have these pay stations right now?
This
Or
is brand new on the market.
Do they
So,
have any pay stations right now in those counties?
Wrightsville Beach has probably 15 pay stations left, somewhere around there. Some of the other ones, Carolina Beach took out all their pay stations for 2025, so they have no more pay stations. North Myrtle Beach, some of the other ones that we did have done the exact same thing. They took out the pay stations because they just became so problematic from an equipment replacement piece. The salt air really does a number on them.
And you still have to enter your license plate into
You
this
still,
new
in
one.
order for us to be able to enforce, we still need you to register your license plate.
Okay, so people may walk 2 blocks to get to the pay station, and once they get there, they have forgotten to take a picture of their license plate, and they have to walk all the way
And
back.
so, yeah, we'll have to make sure that we do a lot of education and such. Remember your plate. We did that at some other municipalities where we did a program called Remember Your Plate program. And just remember that. Take a picture of your plate as soon as you get out of the car, and then go do your payment. There is the option that you would not have to enter your license plate, and you could print your receipt, but you're still gonna have to go walk back to your car and go put your receipt on your dash. There's the only 2 ways for us to know if you paid, is either register your plate or go put a receipt on your dash.
now that campaign may work for, I think, local folks, remember your plates, but when you have travelers that are coming in, they're new to an area, they're just trying to get acclimated. how do you approach that as far, because these are the individuals that are coming in that
So
you're going to want to
social media, again, social media is the way of the world. And so when we create those type of campaigns in social media, it's not about how many followers either Pivot would have or the town would have. It's the hash marks that you do. So there, if someone's searching how to park in Beaufort, then it would come up because that is a search medium. And so those are the hashtags that we would make sure that are part of those social media campaigns, so that if someone was searching online, that's what they would get as part of their query online.
So if we purchase 2 of those, what would be the ideal spot to put them, to locate them?
Honestly, I think somewhere close to Town Hall on that end, within that area, and then in the 4-hour area, so that you have those, because those are where the folks are, they're not gonna be in your east and west lot, because those are your premium lots. So I think within those 2 areas, in our opinion, would make the most sense, if you're doing a minimum of 2.
In the other communities that these are in, what rate of transactions do you see on these versus people on their phones? I mean, can you tell a difference?
That's the reason why some of these communities have chose to take them out, is because the usage has plummeted with again, everyone due to COVID going to QR codes and going to that methodology. It has significantly impacted equipment like this. So we see more so communities taking them out versus putting them in.
And you think the lifespan of them maybe 2 years, 3 years?
Right now, they're saying 3 to 4 years. You might get 5 years. It also is dependent on, in the off-season, you take them out.
Oh, right.
So that you don't have them out dealing with the elements. In the off-season, in the colder months, you take them out. So then that way they're protected and you get a longer use out of them.
I guess one of my concerns is back to my mother and her cohort and lots of other people like her in town who go downtown with their flip phone and they don't have a data plan and they try to park and they get confused. And so they don't come down here anymore. They don't want to go out to eat with their friends at Ribeyes anymore and play Scrabble. They just play Scrabble. So I think I asked you this last time. If they call the number for assistance, you can't take their credit card number over the phone, correct?
Technically, no, because that's against PCI compliance.
Right, so that's where we're stuck. So it's like, I understand
I
getting
think
rid of
we
these
discussed
machines, but-
internally, and I think a potential option could be, we have a handheld credit card reader that we do when people come to the office, and we can tap their credit card or insert their credit card while we're in the office. It runs off cellular. So if there is the need, someone needs that, we can take that handheld and go to them. It's just that we don't want the policy that we would accept cash. I don't want our folks accepting cash out and about, but if it is a credit card, we do have a handheld credit card reader that we could do their transaction for them, and then we can enter their license plate in the back system when we get back to the office. We can do that if that's an option, if we have to.
Yeah, so that's my main concern, and that's why I wanted to talk about the
Just for clarity, is that machine portable? Mm-hmm. So you can have it in the field? Mm-hmm. What do those machines cost?
$800.
Why don't we buy 2 $800 portable machines and get over this?
Could be an option. It's just then, we have to then, how do we properly communicate to the consumer
That's
if
your-
I'm standing there
But
and
your
I
ambas-
can't?
But each of your ambassadors could have one of these machines. If somebody's
Yes.
having a problem, all they have to do is tap it and it's done.
Yes.
I'm in favor of that.
And I think the
I
word
guess-
would spread pretty quick. The
Yeah.
word would probably just spread word of mouth about that.
Well, that's one of our concerns.
Yeah, then you have to be careful, then your attendant becomes a standing pay station. You know,
Good.
so,
Well, as a cashier, no longer enforcing.
That's fine.
yeah.
They need something to do other than give tickets. Take care of our customers.
Yeah.
Duly
Customer
noted.
service is what we're about here.
Yeah, nope, duly noted. So, I mean, definitely that is an option that they
I'd
can
buy
have that.
4 of them, give one to Charlie. And one to Kyle. Be tapping my fare, exactly.
All right.
But just so I understand it, you have a portable unit that can come up and tap a credit card. You still have to have a license number though, right?
Yeah, we
Then
would,
you're gonna be at the car, so it won't be as difficult.
true, and if it is, just speaking out loud, if it is the ambassador that's standing there, then the ambassador can make notation that that license plate and get it into the system, you know, as far as that goes. And we will give them a receipt. It does print a receipt, so we'll give them a receipt. They can put it on their dash.
I'm all for the portables.
Sounds good to me.
I like that too.
I don't think he'll be overtaxed. I don't think there'll be a long line of people waiting there for them to tap their
Well,
card.
and we try to make sure that the ambassadors, if they see someone, you know, we try to
Yeah.
initiate that if you see someone that looks confused, is not having to say, hey, do you need some help? So, you know, we try to do that as much as possible with that customer service and trying to be, you know, intuitive of seeking someone that needs assistance and help. So we
I'd be in favor of
they'll be
buying
doing
3 of them and give them 1 of them to Melvin.
Melvin,
down
you're
there every day.
hired.
I'm down there every day. Yep,
He's
that's
down there
fine.
every day.
I'll take that responsibility.
There
I'm
you
down.
go.
I'm down there pretty much every day. So, you know,
He won't be down there before 11. He doesn't wake up early.
Melvin, you and I have the same hours, so we're good.
that's not right.
He's the afternoon shift. Well, let's circle back to that. If we can probably take a look at the handhelds in lieu of the pay stations, we can circle back on that, because then you won't have to have a 4-week ordering time.
What's the lead
What's the
time
lead time on the 3 days?
Oh,
You want to get a price on that before we say sold?
$800.
Is it $800? Exactly, okay. Each. All right, no more, no less. Now, there's no processing fees or anything associated with that, or,
There are.
oh, hold
There
on,
would be.
let's hear the whole story. Go ahead.
There will be. There will be processing fees associated with each transaction that gets processed through the handheld.
Okay.
Credit
And-
credit card.
Credit card
Credit
fees.
card fees.
Anything different than what they would do on their phone? Is the fee associated any higher by using you guys to pay for it versus me doing it on my phone?
No.
Okay, so
Not
everything's the
higher.
same.
Not higher.
Okay, fantastic. Convenience fee of some sort. Okay, just want to make sure everything is the same.
Until Melvin starts wanting to get paid for it.
Okay, yes, all righty. All right, sounds like an option. 2, 3, what's the number?
2 sounds good.
Start out with
Sounds
2?
good.
Okay, you don't get your own, Melvin.
That's okay.
All right, so we'll look at 2 of those versus the pay stations.
Well, that should be 3. He has 1 already, and then we're gonna purchase 2 more. Is that what we're saying? Or just 1 plus the 1 at the office.
Okay,
Make it
Tina,
2.
let's clarify that.
The one in the office needs to stay in the office because it's for permits. So in
Okay.
case someone comes into the office, he's not having to run out and go find one. So the one in the office needs to stay in the office. So I would recommend 3. That you have 2 working at all time and you have 1 as a backup, because if it gets dropped, then you have to have it fixed. So I would recommend doing 3.
Okay, 3.
3 additional or 2 additional?
3 additional.
3 additional. 1 stays at the office and 3 will be out in the field
Correct.
at $800 each. Come on, math whiz, what's going on down there?
Sold.
Sold.
1,800.
All righty. Thumbs up on that? Yes. Okay, we'd like to have 3 of those.
Okay, thank you.
Did I miss anything? Rates, we talked about the rates being the same. Okay. Let's go back.
I think we're good.
All righty, rates remaining the same,
Okay.
no change in those. Okay,
And I believe that covers all the items we had for you this afternoon.
okay. So,
Can we make a motion to get this over with?
I'm ready to put this to bed. Anybody would like to make a motion? Or do we need to?
I like doing.
Do we need to make a motion? We don't need to, really?
Good.
Okay.
So it's to bed.
It's
Done.
to bed. And we'll still pick up this topic again at our board retreat. That's February the 6th and 7th, correct?
And I'd just like to have it
Sure.
put on for item of consent in the next visit. I just feel like it's good to be able to put this out there in the community, have the business owners and so forth mull it over, chat with us if they need to, and then kind of get back. So
I
that
don't know, is there a need to put it on
Is
item
it
of
item of
consent?
consent?
I've heard from quite a few business owners I don't want us to tear this all apart after I've heard from quite a few.
Okay.
I do think, Commissioner LaPiccolo, this is something, though, would be good for us to remember at our retreat and over the year for the 2026 season. But I don't know if, it's not that, 2025 is not that far away, a parking season, so I feel like we've made a good decision here today.
Yeah, I think so too. I don't want to put any more stress on staff either by kicking it down the road. It would be good if we could do it today, I think.
Okay. And we just already done this by consensus, and we don't need a vote on that, correct? Or would you like to?
If we're gonna further discuss it at the retreat, then I think consensus is fine. If you're dead set on the changes, the May 5th start date,
Okay.
if you wanna go ahead and take action on that, then that's fine.
Well, let's take action on that, because our conversation too at the retreat is to really talk about the revenue and how that's being spent. So it's really not about parking and any of the details we just discussed. So,
The motion can be as easy as the consent of the board on the action items that you spoke about moving forward. And I'll
Okay.
take care of it.
all right, and just make sure we have those action items detailed out so that we are online, in line with what's going on. Okay, so I do need to have a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the item that we verbally, how did you put it, Elizabeth?
Established
Established by consensus of the board. Okay.
For the 2025
For
parking
the
season.
2025 parking season.
All righty, any further questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed have the same right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
happy parking season, if there's such a thing. All right, so we're going to move on to the Mardi Gras event application. Looks like we've got Rachel coming up.
Good evening, Mayor and Board. Before you tonight, I have a request from the Beaufort Business Association to host their annual Mardi Gras event. There are some changes this year that are a bit different from the last year. Last year's event was very different from years before that as well. So I just wanted to make sure you're aware of what some of the requests are. Staff has reviewed this application, and the police department, I'm hopeful that Chief Burdette is back in the room, because I would like for him to address some of the issues. We have denied the application as requested with 2 changes. We offered potential suggestions on changes. Unfortunately, due to the late submission of the application, there hasn't been a whole lot of time for meetings between the applicant. We were able to pull off a meeting this morning at 11. I believe you guys have received a follow-up email from the applicant concerning that. However, the safety issues remain, and so that's something to discuss. There are 2 different options for the parade route. So what the request this year on the application from the BBA is to use the full parade route, which is a vehicle parade, which is 4th of July Christmas parade. Traditionally, the parade for Mardi Gras has been all pedestrian, bicycle, and golf carts, and it has been in start last year, which worked very successfully, was at Pollock Street, west of Pollock Street, line up at BB&T, and then the foot parade and ending on Middle Lane. They are requesting to do the full-blown parade route, which would need to start with vehicles on Gordon Street. There would be no turning onto Middle Lane except for pedestrians only if we went that route. So that is something definitely want the board to address. There are some safety concerns with that as well that I would like for our chief to address specifically. The other element that the town staff reviewed and denied was the element of, there's a request for a bar to set up in John Newton Park. All of the alcohol, with the exception of that one, is contained in Middle Lane and then the BHA grounds. If there is a bar set up at John Newton Park, there would be folks walking back and forth across Front Street with open containers, which would initiate, if that is something that the board wants staff to look into, it would initiate a full road closure on Front Street, which is what we did last year. The footprint is a little bit different this year. Last year, the main tent was in the parking lot, and so staff initiated the closure last year of Front Street, so there was a free flow there. So I will leave it at that. I'll take questions, and then I ask Chief Burdette to join. Actually, I take that back. One other thing, definitely want to make sure that you get your approval on is the permission for alcohol and the closure of Middle Lane too. Staff has no issues with that element.
Okay. Would you like to have the chief come up and say something? So this way we can kind of get his take on it, and then we can consolidate our questions.
Mayor, Board, good afternoon.
Good
Yeah,
afternoon.
in looking at the request, this so happens, I'll start with the meeting that we had this morning at 11 with Mr. Elwins. It's unfortunate circumstance of timing that this is the first major event allowing us to review our safety procedures moving forward. And the events that took place in New Orleans really brought home a planning piece and a safety piece that we really had to take a hard look at how we approach parades and special events in general. This was an immediate internal discussion with my staff, and it's an evolving dialogue that was going to gravitate more towards town hall. And like I said, the unfortunate timing that this event is the first one to be potentially subject to the increased safety measures is just a matter of happenstance. It's nothing against this event in particular. We can do, or it's our responsibility to provide a safe environment for both participants and spectators. And the way that we've traditionally staffed parades and with the personnel that we've used has not been the most effective. And moving forward, we would really be derelict, or I would be derelict in my duties if I didn't make more appropriate recommendations moving forward, again, to enhance those safety measures. I'm happy to take questions on the application or what the discussion points are, but I'd prefer not to go into specific safety measures that we plan to put in place in an open meeting, but I'm happy to discuss internally.
Right. And you're saying these safety measures will apply to all parades moving forward, correct?
That's my
Okay.
proposal, yes, ma'am.
All righty. All right, let's see if we can start with general questions. Commissioner Cooper.
Chief, I understand your safety concern. In looking back in terms of New Orleans, Middle Lane could be that. Because it's congested, people are packed into the one space.
Absolutely.
So if I wanted to make an impact, Middle Lane would be the ideal spot.
Sure.
So why not let's spread it out so that the impact is minimum if anything was to happen versus being right there on Middle Lane. I've been down the past couple of years, and I mean, it's congested. Walking through, we got food trucks. Then there's the parade element there as well. So I just think that having it out where it's not so congested might be a better way to go. I'm not an expert on safety factors.
Sure, and I don't want there to be a misunderstanding. I'm here to respond and make recommendations to whatever footprint you approve. I'm not suggesting one footprint over another. There's just consequences and other things to consider if you change that footprint. And Rachel gave the best example last year when we had activity in the park. We initiated a closure of Front Street to accommodate that footprint. I'm not here to recommend a footprint. I'm here to give recommendations based off whatever footprint you feel is most appropriate.
So you believe the safety features that you want to implement will keep Middle Lane safe?
Yes, sir.
Once again, you're the expert there. I'm looking at like a Sunday evening, Sunday afternoon football coach on the couch. That's how I'm looking. That's how I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it in the sense that I'm that inexperienced person trying to tell this coach how to win the game, or trying to tell you how I think. To me, it will look much safer if it's spread out versus congested right on Middle Lane. Because I'm on Little Lane and it's congested. Man, that's, once again, that's just my perspective.
Right, the entire event is due its natural attention, but most of, and I hesitate to use the word pushback, but the big change is my staffing for the parade route itself. Middle Lane isn't a concern per se, because like you said, it's well contained. It's an easy footprint to plan for and to provide safety for. The change, if you will, is in who and how we staff the parade route. Whereas before for town parades, we would use volunteers from town hall, et cetera. And that's not appropriate, because we also need some physical barriers to go along with officers giving
Right.
direction. And using, whether it's volunteers from the applicant's organization or other members of town hall, it's not appropriate for providing the level of security that's needed based off of what potentially could happen. You know, I've said it once before in other meetings, the reality is hope isn't an action plan. And I would be derelict if I didn't bring these recommendations to you for your consideration. But again, we have no issue with the footprint. The event itself, it's a phenomenal event. It really brings the community together, and we're here to support it. It's just my planning for it has to be based off of what footprint is presented and is approved. And there were some options that Rachel talked about that have some consequences that we would have to make some adjustments for. And unfortunately, there just wasn't enough time to have the fruitful dialogue back and forth with the event organizer just based off of timing. Sure.
I do want to make sure I was clear about too, the footprint is not just Middle Lane. So it's Middle Lane down, free flow back and forth up Turner Street to the BHA grounds. The parade is, the majority of that is Front Street and Turner Street with only pedestrians and maybe some golf carts going up Middle Lane. So that footprint is expanded. The bigger issue we're looking at is to add an additional, so we already have that confined space, to add an additional bar location across Front Street on John Newton Park, which would then initiate some additional closures there in addition to the parade route.
You addressed in that also limiting where alcohol to be sold. You scratched the park?
Correct. So currently, our policy is we do not allow alcohol in areas where vehicles are free-flowing. We currently only allow it in pedestrian areas. So that would be, if we did allow that in John Newton Park, we would need to, that would engage a closure of Front Street.
Right.
To be able to have that flow.
But when we do the music downtown during the summer, they sell wine.
That is contained to the park. The permit is only exclusive to the park. It is not to flow. People are not supposed to walk up and down Front Street.
They're not supposed to.
Right. I can't address that part.
You sell me a cup of wine, I'm listening to the music, I may start wandering and head on out. Did your chief need to address that, or?
Well, then he might give you a ticket.
He didn't confess. He was just citing an example.
Yeah, I'm a law-abiding citizen, trust me.
It's just an example.
But I'm just using that, yeah, as an example.
That becomes an enforcement issue, and I'm sure the visibility of this event isn't my staff at downtown issuing citations. I don't think that's the picture that we're aiming for. And which is why we did the closure of both Craven Street and Front Street last year, to accommodate, again, the spirit of the event and the free flowing of pedestrians in a safe, in a safe space.
Anything else? Thank you. Okay.
Now, you'll think, yeah, I may come back, but then for now, I'll let the other colleagues address it.
Okay. Commissioner Oliver?
I'll admit I'm a little confused. Just for clarity of this, how long has this 90-day submittal proposal been in our policy?
Since 2018.
I can't hear you.
2018.
Okay.
The event policies were adopted by the board in 2018 and have been in place since that time.
Thank you. So am I understanding, Chief, what you're saying is that if John Newton Park is going to be authorized for use of alcohol, then you recommend that Front and Craven Streets be closed off to vehicular traffic during that event?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But they can do it, but it would require that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And was that transmitted to the event organizers?
So yes, and last year we
And
worked.
and what was their decision
So-
based upon their being told that?
So they would like to move forward with their original ask of the plan. Unfortunately, there has not been a lot of time due to the late submission to be
You
able to
talked to
go back
Nelson
forward.
today, when he told him that, did he decide of, okay, then we'll not go for that? What was their decision? Or have you received it yet?
So he was going to email staff prior to this meeting. However, we did not receive an email. I believe
So
the
you've
board
not
did.
received a response?
No, I believe the board received an
We
email.
received it.
It says here in the email, alcohol sales at Newton Park, restricting alcohol sales to Middle Lane. Those are the reasons in which they denied. Let's see if he goes down and addresses anything.
Commissioner Oliver, it was sent to us at 2:54 PM this afternoon. So-
Yes.
What is,
If
can
I-
somebody share with me, is there a response from?
If I could
the
offer,
organization?
from the meeting that we had this morning, what I gleaned from the conversation, his concern overall was the public safety.
I've got his concern, what's his response?
Well, it wasn't specific to John Newton Park, it wasn't specific to Front Street closures. It was the broader public safety, the enhanced public safety requirements, and we talked significantly about the parade route. That's where the majority of the
I'm trying to
discussion this
concentrate
morning.
on whether we're allowed to authorize in John Newton Park. He was told, they were told, and my understanding is that if they do that, those streets have to be closed, but they could do it. Do we have a decision back from them whether they want to request that or not?
Their email states in bold print, the BBA requests our application be accepted as is.
Okay, so there's not an answer.
No, so none of the closures for safety purposes have been requested by the
Now, I
BBA.
understand the reasoning, I'm just asking what the organization has said. Is that accurate? Okay. So that's a decision.
They
that
want
we
their
have- That's the
initial.
decision we have to make.
Yes.
Okay. The second thing is, help me understand the rationale behind limiting it to golf carts and pedestrians on this parade.
The initial application, the issue with vehicles is they wanted the vehicles to turn back onto Middle Lane to end the parade, and vehicles can't make that turn. With the
So if they
island.
don't turn, would vehicles be permitted?
Additionally, they requested the parade start at Pollock Street. Our large vehicle parades must start all the way down at beyond Live Oak at Gordon.
So can I get a yes, no answer? Is there a way that vehicles other than golf carts and pedestrians could be accommodated if they started and didn't turn up Middle Lane?
Sure.
Thank you.
They have to start at Gordon Street.
I'm sorry?
The parade would have to start at Gordon Street.
Versus where?
First, they've requested Pollock Street.
It has to start farther down.
Yes, to accommodate traffic and road closures, we have to start it further down.
Okay, I got it. That's the only questions I have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Spiegler?
Thank you. I know this is confusing. So the Board of Commissioners received an email from Nelson this afternoon, only an hour before our meeting. That's why there's a lot of confusion going on. But I guess my question is, so it seems like because this application was not submitted 3 months ahead, as is the town policy, now a lot of these decisions are having to be made quickly. Is that what I'm hearing? Okay. So I do know that people really enjoyed this event last year. It was a lot bigger than it had been previously, and this is I think, like you said, a good event for the community. We all agree on that. Is it also because it's becoming a larger event, putting more, making it so that we need more resources from town to implement this event? Is that a good question?
That's a fair assessment.
So it's becoming a more popular event, a bigger event, and also needing more town resources. Is
Yes,
that-
ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and I think all of that is good. I think, like you said, this is a good event. It brings the community together. It's in the off season, right? So it brings people to Beaufort. Do you feel like you have enough time, though, since the application was submitted late, to plan for the event becoming even bigger this year?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And plans are already in place. Because staffing can be a challenge, once we got the initial application, the internal dialogue already started, and we conceptualized what this could potentially be. And with my recommendations, should the board move forward, the event is fully staffed and ready to go.
Okay, so you can staff it. I guess the question is, right, so there's some compromises that seems like that have been floated, as in whether or not the parade should be bigger than last year, right, and where the alcohol should be served. So I guess we're just trying to decide what is best for the town staff, what can they handle in this short amount of time, right? Is that sort of?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
A little translation. We are staffed for the footprint that the town staff has recommended. If the larger parade in the additional bar area, it will double the amount of staff that is needed.
Okay, so what is y'all's recommendation of how to move forward in this short time period? Because I think we all would probably agree this is a great event and we want to grow it, but do we have the time to do that this year, right? Is that what we're asking?
For planning purposes and my staff, we'll be able to fulfill the necessary staffing to make sure that it's a safe event.
Even if we need to close Front and Craven, you can come up with a staff if we decide that is acceptable.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. The question that you would also have to consider is restricting parking, because having vehicles within a confined area,
Right.
again, presents a significant challenge. So there'd be some closures, ahead of time, that all the parking spaces would be blocked.
So Chief, if they had presented this application in a reasonable time, obviously that didn't happen here. So therefore, what's the possibility of them doing this next year? Presenting all the things that they were, alcohol, parade route, et cetera, et cetera.
So traditionally, before we stand before you tonight, we have multiple meetings back and forth with event organizers to make sure that everything is ironed out. Last year, we worked closely with Mardi Gras to come up with the footprint that was there last year. There just hasn't been time this year to do that. I would anticipate next year, hopefully the application would come in sooner and we can start that dialogue sooner.
Okay.
We're not against growing it, we just need to do it safely.
Commissioner Spiegler, you still have the floor.
No, I want to make sure what Rachel just said is really important. We want to make sure we're growing this event safely. So whatever the town staff, needs to do that, that's what I would be supportive of.
Commissioner Gillikin?
I think I would defer to the recommendations of staff on this one.
Commissioner LoPiccolo?
I had a question regarding the closure of Front Street. What part of Front Street would need to be closed? Would that be between Craven and Turner, or additional portions of Front Street?
Craven and Turner.
And I'm not talking about just for the parade, but for the event, because the event's going to be a 5-hour event.
Yes, for the duration.
For the duration.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I also had a question regarding the town and the town putting forth the effort of all the workers for this. As I've been involved with large events before, typically it's on the event itself to hire crowd control managers and people who are basically certified by the state for this. Does the town, and I do believe too, there's even a North Carolina state fire code that may require that. The town aware of that, or does the town comply with that at all?
Yes, so the events that occur on town property, the event organizers have to hire our police department staff for that. I know a lot of events that happens at Gallant's Channel, those are not town involvement, so yes. And then also our fire marshal and our fire department's heavily involved in all of the conversations.
So the North Carolina, from what I understand, there's a statute for North Carolina that requires managers for events over 1,000 attendees or so. Is that something that the town?
Well, I know as far as the town goes, for town liability purpose, I personally am certified with that. That is something that you can go online and get that certification. It's not something that we've required of event organizers, since the security and that kind of thing fall to the town.
Well, I just want to make sure that the town is in compliance with the state. And as long as we are in compliance with the state, if we can look into that, I'd appreciate that. I also want to make sure that we, obviously with the event that occurred in New Orleans, we want to make sure we have physical barriers in place. And I sent an email out regarding that almost immediately after that event for Middle to protect the crowds there. And I don't know if the town has made an effort to install or to look for that type of physical barrier to protect the Middle Lane.
Yeah, there are some enhanced infrastructure barriers. We don't currently own any, but we have a great relationship with our neighboring agencies, and through mutual aid, we'll have what we need for a safe event, and we're exploring, purchasing that on our own. They are expensive. It's an expensive endeavor, but when we're in the parade and special event business, that's something we need to be cognizant of. And, it's true, I think it's our responsibility to be self-sufficient. But that being said, our regional partners they're great partners, and they've really stepped up, and so we have no concerns for this event.
Any further questions from the board?
Yes. Certainly don't want to put no undue stress on the staff pertaining to this Mardi Gras, and thinking of the safety of the people that is attendance. And I mean, it's okay. Let me go this route. How many arrests did you make last year at this event?
None that I can recall off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at the stats.
If there's none, that's great, because we got this mass of people congregated in this small area. And if we don't get, if it didn't have any arrests, it's amazing, because you are mixing alcohol with people that's bumping all into one another. Maybe it's because we got sprinkle dust and people keep themselves in order when they're in Beaufort or whatever. But and I'm not trying to make no one job any difficult as it is, because I'm only going to be, if I go down, I'm only going to be there for a certain number of hours. I'm not going to be there for the entire event. But our staff and our officers, I know will have to be there from start to finish. I'm just perplexed in terms of this whole situation. I wish they may have brought this application in a timely manner. Like I said, we just got this within an hour before we was meeting here, and then we got to try to digest and make sound decision on this matter.
I understand that. I believe I understand the sentiment you're trying to make, and the best way I think to respond is keeping the peace is really secondary to providing a safe environment for folks to enjoy the event. That's where the concern is providing a safe area for the event to take place. My concern personally is not for the behavior of the attendees. We generally have a well-behaved community. We have a well-behaved crowd, well-behaved visitors that come in, but it's providing that safe space for an event like this with the footprint that it presents. having a safe space for them to do that. You know, keeping the peace within the event, that's, clearly it's a priority, but the reality is that's going to be secondary to providing that safe space to begin with.
Any further questions or comments? Okay. All righty, don't go too far. They may start asking questions, but we'll know where to find you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank
Yes,
you
sir.
so much.
And Rachel.
So
Sharon,
based, yes,
I'd like to see if maybe we can, I was looking at the application for the special event, and I find that it's very fragmented, and it seems a little, to me, a little antiquated. I think that maybe if we revisit that and look to put together a special events guideline that's a little bit more laid out and specific regarding what the town wants. I mean, you know, just even hearing from Rachel about where the parades can start and so forth. I don't know if we have this like in a document or available so that someone can look at this and we can make sure we're checking off boxes and making sure that we have things set up appropriately for events like this.
and I think would you like to address that? Because we do have something in play. I remember seeing those.
So what you have before you is the event permit that is filled out in conjunction with the event procedures policy, which is available online and referred to in this document. And actually, all the signatures refer back legally to the fact that they're acknowledging that they've read and are aware of all of this. And those are available online on our website. I'm not sure if we can pull them up, but they're there.
I remember seeing them, so they are available.
To answer John's question, I think we have the features, everything in place. What was the submittal date for this application, Rachel?
It was 90 days. For events over 500, it's 90 days in advance.
But did they submit it within the 90 days?
No, sir. It was submitted on New Year's Eve, on December 31st. And the event is March 1st.
So here we have a matter of being able to balance what our rules and regulations are when it comes down to the events this size, and to have an enjoyable event and having it done in a safe manner. So we have an application before you, and at this point, we're looking at either approving or denying it, but if you approve it, give the staff some directions on how you would like to proceed. And I believe they put in some suggestions in your packet as to how to proceed with that.
So if I might, I'd like to see if I can draft an approval methodology. And that is that within 48 hours of the approval tonight, if it is approved, we receive from the applicant a confirmation of whether they will accept and be responsible for, as set out in the policy, the closing of Front Street and Craven Street in order to have alcohol sales in John Newton Park, one. And two, whether they will accept the extended parade access to which street, Rachel?
Gordon?
To Gordon,
Gordon would be the starting for the
in
lineup.
order to have greater golf cart and pedestrians. Otherwise, having not received that decision from them, the permit as presented is denied.
I think the only thing with that, but I hear what you're saying, and it would make an allowance, but staff is saying right now, it's a burden on them.
But he
to
also
proceed
said
with
they
this.
can, they're willing to meet it.
Are you willing to meet this?
He said yes.
So yes, and also just to back that up too, January, I believe it was January 13th, staff presented that option in an email to the event organizers, to which no response was given directly to staff. I do believe they reached out to a few of you and the town manager to set up the meeting that actually occurred today.
So my motion stands. The staff is willing, but we have to know within 48 hours on those two items.
No problem.
I agree with Bucky, but I don't know if we should say it's denied. I think maybe we should revert to the original staff recommendations in the packet if they don't get back with us within 48 hours on what you outlined.
I'm glad to have your amendment to my motion.
Would that work for you, Bucky?
Yes, I say,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
for
okay,
me, it would.
great.
Would that also work for the staff?
If you know the answer in 48 hours, can we pull it off?
We will do whatever the board directs us to do.
Good answer.
But
Paul,
Hold on, we've got to back up.
Yes, sir.
if we know within 48 hours, can you still pull it off?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we've got a motion on the floor. Any further questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed have the same right.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Rachel.
Thank you,
Thanks,
both
Paul.
of you.
Whatever your name is, Mr. Interim Manager.
All right, so now we're going to move on to the sidewalks at the west end of Front Street. We've got an update, and I think, Charlie, this is you.
Yes, we sent out some information, but it also probably was late due to,
Not reading my emails.
I'll blame it on the storm last week. So,
Thank you.
let's see. Yeah. And if we could put the map,
Thank you.
just the map up, that attachment. What my intent is this afternoon is just kind of walk you through a series of events as far as the sidewalk situation at the terminus of Front Street. And then try to answer any questions you have. Staff has been working on this issue for several months with some private interest, and I know each of you have probably been approached. And what I want you to leave this discussion with is the understanding of how the sidewalk that was on the north side of Front Street in the vicinity of 105 Front Street is now located on the south side. Back September the 6th of 22, the owner of 105 Front Street had an application before the Beaufort Historic Association, Preservation Commission, rather, for a landscape plan for the front of their house. They had previously been before the Preservation Commission to elevate the structure, to have the home at a higher elevation. The plan that's attached to your email and the plan that appears on the screen is what was included in that September 6, 22 submission to the Historic Preservation Commission. Commission reviewed it, ultimately approved that landscape design and issued the certificate of appropriateness. After that time, the owner of the property approached the town about the relocation of the sidewalk that traversed in front of their home that ended at the driveway that's shown even on the plat that you have before you. And their property goes around the cul-de-sac up to a point along the south side of Front Street. And the part that we're not sure of is where the actual property line is in relationship to the pavement area of Front Street. We've seen many plats and many surveys that indicate that the town owns the roadway. We've seen plats and information that indicate the town does not. We do know that where the benches are at the terminus of the turnaround are located on property owned by 105 Front Street. What the owner proposed was putting in a crosswalk, which still has not yet been put in, but putting in the crosswalk and then that shaded area moving in a westerly direction to the area of the benches is brick pavers and materials and construction costs were borne by the owner of the property. The then town manager and then town engineer met on the site, viewed the relocation from north to south for the sidewalk there to access the benches, and authorized the property owner to move ahead. Public Works Department did check the installation of the brick pavers and such, and we all were paying great attention, I'm sure, to Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA requirements, and so that's how it came to be. I'll be happy to answer questions you may have. We're not, can't even tell you if the original sidewalk was on private property or public property. That's how conflicted we are on where the property lines are there. And even some recent findings in the clerk's office, the Register of Deeds office, using my Virginia vernacular there, sorry about that. And the Register of Deeds office indicates that the town may have conveyed an entire area in front of that house to the owner, maybe some 100 years ago. So we're still digging on property ownership, but as far as how the sidewalk moved from the north to the south, that's what happened. I'll be happy to answer questions, and there's other staff here that we can bring into the conversation as well, if need be.
Commissioner Cooper, you have any questions?
Well, I visited that area a minute, well, walking, and when when I received the email, and I went down the very next day and took a look, that last house that's in that cul-de-sac there, that lawn area, it doesn't look like it ever had a sidewalk or anything.
Yes, no, it was in front of the house.
It pretty much ended, but where this property owner put in the pavers. That
Yes.
appeared to be where the sidewalk actually ended anyway.
The sidewalk, previously, there was a sidewalk.
In
It
the
might have been
last-
on,
the
it might
very
have been
last
on,
house?
it might have been on private property. I mean, we could pull up a GIS map from 22, and, with the topography from 22, and it'll show you a sidewalk on the north side that goes in front of that house and stops at that driveway. The driveway to the left, to the west.
Yeah.
I can't, sidewalk wasn't in particularly good repair, I'm told, but there was a sidewalk there.
And that's just grass.
And now it's a landscaped area. And, the property owner, proposed in exchange for doing the landscape area there to put the brick paver sidewalk across, with the crosswalk across the street to access the benches.
But we're having you're not able to find out exactly whether or not that was town property or private property.
Well, I said this to I think I said it to our town attorney before, trying to get two surveyors to agree is like getting two attorneys to agree.
You gonna take that?
He agreed to disagree.
And
Even if they're in the same firm.
we've toyed with the idea of having the area from Sunset West, surveyed, but we'd want to advise all property owners in that area in advance of that activity, because we don't want to raise any red flags for anyone thinking we're doing something, up to something.
Okay.
So really, before we could do anything to say even put a sidewalk there, we need to find out whether or not we even own that.
If you wanted to replace the sidewalk, we would need a survey that showed that you have 4 foot of area to put an ADA compliant sidewalk in. Yes, sir.
I don't think there's that much.
Well, therein lies the problem.
I don't appear to be that, okay. That's all I have, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Oliver?
Is it the town's position that the brick pavers that were installed by the homeowners are ADA compliant?
Yes, sir.
Is it my understanding that, that the town is, that no one is able to prove the ownership of the north side of Front Street west of Sunset Lane?
Definitively, it's all a matter of which plat you look at.
So the answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
Then I don't think we have any position that we can take on this subject until and unless that is settled. And I'm not saying that we need to settle it, but I don't think I'm not in a position to, if we can't prove who owns that property, I don't think we have any position in the subject at the present time. Nor do I think we have any burden to prove it.
Commissioner Spiegler?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Charlie. I know this has been an ongoing issue. I do think, so I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly, and I appreciate you putting this together. So the Historic Preservation Commission, they approved the landscaping plan.
That's correct.
It was the former town manager, Todd Clark, and the former town engineer, Greg Misha, who met on site and approved that the sidewalk could be moved from the north side to the south, or, I'm sorry, from the, north side to the south
To the
side.
best of my knowledge, that's correct.
I know you
Yes.
weren't here, but that,
Yeah,
from your
yes,
understanding
yes.
and looking
That's-
to see.
That's my understanding.
So the commissioners have received concerns that that sidewalk should never have been moved in the first place because it was town property, and it is creating a hardship for people that walk, that they have to cross over Front Street, whereas before, they did not have to do that. And so there are people who have accessibility issues that can create a hardship for. And I just want to, these are the issues that have been presented to the
Yes.
commissioners. That being said, we've also learned, I think, that this is a murky issue because we're not quite sure of the property ownership.
Correct.
So that being said, it seems like we, in order to move forward, would need to know, if we want to move forward, right, like you said, who owns the property.
If you want to reestablish
Right.
the north side sidewalk,
Right.
yes.
And
You want to
that's,
discuss it?
that's pretty much all I have to say. I just wanted to make sure I'm understanding
That's a
the
good
issues
recap.
that have been brought to us
Yes.
and that we know
Yes.
has caused concerns in the community, both for people that use the sidewalks, but also the property owners who worked with the town and are just doing what they were told they could do as well. So am I getting that correctly? For the most part, okay.
Yes.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Gilligan?
I had a list of questions, and then once the ownership thing came up, those questions were not pertinent anymore.
We all did, I think.
Right. But I mean, I guess I'm acknowledging the same thing as Commissioner Oliver, is balancing the citizen concerns and the actual hardship versus the taxpayer expense to pay for survey work, and additional analysis, and maybe once we find out who owns what, having to change something. So one question to you, Charlie, is have you heard from additional citizens? I know we've heard from one citizen, all of us, but have there been additional citizens who have found this difficult and contacted town staff?
I have not had any other contact and am not aware of any other staff that have been contacted by other individuals.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Piccolo?
So I think a lot of my questions were answered. I do agree. I do feel like if we don't have the understanding of the ownership of that north side, then we really can't really be moving forward with any types of changes. That north side also extends to the house adjacent to this then, I would imagine. So that entire
Yes.
section there. So does that, we don't then know if the rest of the Front Street also falls into that as well?
We believe there is some right-of-way. We need to do an actual survey to figure that out.
Because we don't know right of way currently then on this. portion.
Correct. From Sunset Lane is a big question mark in that area. And I might add, just to confuse the issue a little bit more, if I were to, I'm good at this. If we were to go out there to do some survey work, I would like to do some survey work on the south side from the crosswalk area, moving towards Moore Street to determine if there's a 4-foot area so that we could pick up the sidewalk there and extend it and connect it and do the same brick pavers and connect it to this sidewalk. So you would have a contiguous sidewalk, at least on the south side,
So
all the way to the
new
turnaround.
sidewalk that's
Like
there,
Yes.
right? Is that now on the title or the deed for the property, that is now a sidewalk that the town has a right over? Or is that just something that's been provided by the homeowner?
I do not believe, I'm not aware of any plat other than this that we've received, and I don't believe you've accepted over the last year or two ownership of, or conveyance or transfer of any property there.
And I would imagine that, I think the stairs, or the steps for the home, when the home is elevated, I believe the stairs kind of came over, and that was probably one of the main reasons why they wanted to do that. Is there a way that the town can install a crosswalk right before sunset, so that there's an ability to?
They've done that.
Is there a painted crosswalk on the street there? I don't
There
believe
is
so.
not right now. That crosswalk, it was an oversight that it was not installed when the sidewalk was put in. The owner has been reminded of that and has responded that they will have that done as soon as weather permits. Yeah. And I don't know this, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's going to be a similar elevated type of crosswalk that you have in front of the museum.
Okay.
Did anybody nod and say that's right? I won't make you come up and say anything.
What's that, Charlie?
I think it's going to be more of a raised crosswalk like you have in front of the Watercraft Center.
Oh, don't bring that issue up.
I wasn't talking about it.
It's shown, and it's
Yeah,
shown on the plan.
Strike that from the record, please.
Okay,
Speed modulator.
so a speed modulating type of thing, yeah.
That's another.
And that the crosswalk will also have the ability for the tactile sensation, so that the blind
Yes. Oh,
can
yes,
cross
definitely.
there. And okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay.
So now that the owner is being responsible for putting this in, are we sending down someone to make sure that it's being installed appropriately to be checked and?
Yeah, Mr. Eeks has done that on the sidewalk. I'm sure he will be there.
Okay.
When the crosswalk is
All right,
installed.
just as long as we have some eyes on that to make
Oh,
sure it's going in
yes.
correctly, we don't have to come back and speak about it again. So with this issue, because we do, although it's, one citizen, it's just a concern that we need to take a look at. Do we want the board to authorize the town manager to go get a survey of that property and to see where we stand? No?
But I do kind of like the idea about talking about the connectivity of the south sidewalk. And is that in any of our planning documents? I can't remember if that section, we wanted to, sorry to put you on the spot. I can't remember if we were talking about continuous sidewalk there or not, but I don't think we should do anything on the north side. We could open
Yeah.
a nasty can of worms.
Yes.
But we could make a very nice, continuous path on the south if we do have.
If we have the area or can acquire an easement
Within
at a
our right of
reasonable
way.
price.
Or an easement, yeah.
Yes, okay. We can quietly go about that and report back to you if that's your desire. Just through a consensus.
And I've got one question for the, in the two parcels that are there, one is Mr. Wooten's house and one is Littlewood's house. If title insurance were obtained on either of those transfers, would it address any of that, Counselor?
It could, but that would be for the benefit of the property owners. Typically, you would see some general exception like the right-of-way of Front Street. And, you know, the issue is that we've seen, clearly there's a right-of-way for Front Street. Clearly the town owns it. It was reflected on
Question is where it stops.
the 1812 plat of the town that's hanging in the Register of Deeds. Where it stops, where the private property stops or starts, and I don't believe we've seen a good depiction of where the old sidewalk was between those two. And I think at one point, as Charlie alluded to, your management team thought that sidewalk was mostly or all on private property, so that was the shift to the south. So, you know, even if you went through a survey and continue digging into the title, you know, the permission we gave to the owners to move that sidewalk and relocate it, that would be difficult for the town to work around and undo and reinstall a sidewalk on the north side. So that's also a consideration. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Okay. All righty.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Although there's no action that necessarily needs to be taken per se. Any further comments? Okay, we'd love to hear more report about the sidewalk extension on the
Will do.
south side.
Will do.
And getting that crosswalk updated. All right, so now we're going to move on to professional park area stormwater study.
I'll turn this over to Sam Bell. The study has been concluded. He's going to talk with you about that, and then we're going to maybe talk briefly about the public information session we were talking about having previously, and try to figure out how many months out we want to do that, maybe by March. Sam?
Mayor and Board, good evening.
Good evening.
Mayor Harker, good to see you back.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it.
I hope everybody enjoyed the snow last week.
Yeah, we did.
But here tonight to just give an update on the professional park stormwater study. We got